The Green Bay Packers were the most run-heavy team in the league last year, but this isn't about Jordan Love because that's not how the Packers want to play.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. I've heard this stat used from Packer fans, from Bears fans, Vikings fans, 49ers fans, whoever, as a drag on Jordan Love. And it's not, but it is the case. The Packers were the most run-heavy team in the league last year. You look at neutral situations. Okay, win probability between 20 and 80%. So no blowouts. And 20 and 80 is, it seems like a big range, but it's actually a more narrow range than you realize. But it gives us plenty of plays to understand here. And it's early down. So on third down, if it's 3rd and 8, you got to throw it. So it's not a neutral situation, right? In neutral situations last year, game neutral situations, the Packers were by far the run heaviest team in the league. And you can understand why a critic of the Packers would say, well, that's a Jordan Love thing. They don't trust Jordan Love. But as Jordan Love told us at OTAs the other day, he wasn't healthy basically the whole season. And you saw the receivers. You saw the drops, the drop percentages. Dontavian Wicks at volume, the #1 drops receiver in the league. Jaden Reed among league leaders in drops. It's not the best. And so that leads you to that 42.7 pass rate in game neutral situations. By the way, the Eagles were the second most conservative team. They were at 46%, and they had Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. It's not great. And what makes it even less great is in those game neutral situations, so 1st and 2nd down, when the game is still in doubt, only the Ravens were a more efficient passing team in those situations. So when they did throw the ball on early downs, they were really good at it. And this was a criticism that I had of the Packers all season. And what I was trying to relay was, look, when this team throws the ball on early downs, they're really good. And they are. I think they got a little caught up going, we don't know how much we trust this passing game, so let's just pound the rock because we trust Josh Jacobs. I understand that to a point. If you take out the Malik Willis games, so from week 4 on, they're still the most run-heavy team in the league. But guess what happens? They pass the Ravens in passing efficiency. They are the most efficient, situation-neutral passing team in the league. Let me say that again. Once Jordan Love returns from his knee injury, they are the most efficient passing team in situation neutral offense all season. So I hear from Bears fans, sometimes there's a Bears fan in particular that I always hear from. Magoo. Shout out to him. He's a troll, and I respect his trolling. And he talks about being a garbage time merchant. Well, this is excluding, like very clearly excluding garbage time. The most efficient passing offense in the league in these situation neutral opportunities. You go back to 2023, they ran the ball less. 21st in situation neutral run rate. But they were also worse in throwing the ball, 8th in EPA per play in those situations. Now, when you go from that week 10 on, when Jordan Love was unbelievable, the stretch of time where everyone who wants to criticize Jordan Love says, well, he got paid off half a season. They were 16th in pass rate, but first comfortably in passing efficiency. So once Jordan Love became Jordan Love, we didn't know he was becoming Jordan Love yet, but once he started to become Jordan Love, week 10 and beyond, and then we build in 2024. Once he gets back from injury, so it's hard to, to bucket the numbers. Week 4, and then week 1 plus then week 4, excluding week 2 and 3. So let's just week 4 on, and he's not 100%. Like, you watch that Vikings game, he was not 100%. But let's just take from week 4 on and then week 10 on. This is the number 1 offense in passing efficiency in neutral situations. They need to throw the ball more. And we're going to find out, I think, this year, whether or not they actually want to do that. Now, they threw the ball in neutral situations much more in 2020, 2021 with Aaron Rodgers. So it's not as if this has never happened. But I don't think with Matt LaFleur, they ever want to get to a place where they were 2017, 2018, when they were leading the league in pass rate. I just don't think they want to be that way. It's not the way their offense is organized. They want to be a team that has some balance. I think at their best, they feel that way. But also, you have a lead. This last year in 2024, they had a lead in these games more often than not. There wasn't the, hey, we're down 17-0 in the fourth quarter, so we got to come back and make these plays happen. Now, without looking at it, I would go back and guess that they had a win percentage, a win probability of less than 20% for a lot of that. So you wouldn't even count it probably until, the final drive or two. But still, it does matter that for an 11-win team and a 9-win team, you're going to spend more time leading, and you're going to spend more time with a win probability above 80%. And even when you don't have a win probability above 80%, like, you might be in the second quarter with a win probability above 80% because you're a better team. Win probability builds in who is playing. That being said, the Packers can be much more aggressive, and we're going to learn if that's what Matt LaFleur wants to be. Because even when the 49ers were just ripping everyone apart in 2023 by EPA per play, they were not the Bengals when it comes to how often they were throwing the ball. The Bengals have been the leaders with Joe Burrow the last couple of years in pass rate. The 49ers have consistently, going back to Jimmy Garoppolo and with Brock Purdy, been average to below average in how often they're throwing the ball. They just don't do it that much. They don't have to do it that much because the running game is that efficient. Now, there are two huge things that have to happen in order for the Packers to be able to, number one, keep something close to the run rate that they've been using. But also, I want to talk about how this offense could change. Let's start with the run game piece of this. We'll do that next on Locked On Packers. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. The Oklahoma City Thunder in the finals. We've got great NBA action to bet on here over the next few weeks. NFL futures, OTAs opening, plenty of stuff to talk about here. Baseball, live prop bets, mid-game. Look, baseball can be a slow sport. I get it. You put a couple of these prop bets together and now all of a sudden we're having real fun during a baseball game that's going to take 3.5 hours. Plus $200 in bonus bets adds to the excitement. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Josh Jacobs said he had a bunch of missed chances to turn 20-yard runs into 60-yard runs. He wants to make that leap. As our pal Zach Cruz from Packers Wire points out, Jacobs did not have any runs of 40 yards or more in 2024, had 7 runs of 20 or more. Saquon Barkley, for example, had 7 runs of 40 or more and 17 runs of 20 or more last year. If you're going to be a run-heavy team, you have to be an explosive run-heavy team. You just have to be. You can't sustain enough good offense. And remember, the Packers had a really good offense, being so run-heavy, in part because their passing game was also really, really good, right? But in order to be that kind of, that 49ers team from 2023, when you look at that team could create explosives with Christian McCaffrey or with Deebo Samuel. And that is the difference. If you want to be the elite of the elite offenses, and again, the Packers, top 5 offense by DVOA, top 10 offense by EPA per play. That 2023 49ers offense, they were middle of the pack in early down pass frequency. 14th in early down pass frequency. But guess what? Number one, they were awesome when they did it. 3rd in drop back EPA per play. But when they ran the ball on those early plays, they were the only team in the league in 2023, the only team in the league that had a positive rush EPA per play in those situation neutral opportunities. Packers were 3rd in EPA per play, but they were a negative EPA per play. And it's not just like a little difference. Like they had an EPA per play rushing the ball. So just for perspective, because I know that these numbers can be hard to wrap your brains around. They had a rushing EPA per play that if it were their passing EPA per play, so they were this efficient running the ball. If their running game were a passing game in game neutral situations, they would have been 15th in drop back EPA per play, ahead of the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, the Chargers with Justin Herbert, the Cardinals with Kyler Murray, the Eagles with Jalen Hurts. That's how efficient their running game needed to be. And they still were an above average team passing the ball. They threw the ball more often on early downs. And again, they were elite at it, but they were also elite running the ball. So you can say, okay, well, they weren't the most pass heavy team, and that's okay because they were really good running the ball. That has to be the trade-off. If you're going to be an outstanding run team, that's fine for you to run the ball. You still would rather be running the ball less than you're passing the ball, because passing is always going to be more efficient. But if you have a rushing offense that's going to be that good, okay, well that changes things at least a little bit. But here's the thing: the Packers, yes, more teams, by the way, in 2024 had early down or neutral situation run rates that were positive. The Packers, one of them. There were 5 teams last year that did, but none of them were as good as the 49ers, that 49ers team. The Packers were second in situation neutral rush EPA per play. So they were still like very, very, very good. But not so good as to justify all that other stuff. Now, if you want to be that good, and I don't, by the way, want to justify the other stuff. I don't want them to feel justified running the ball 57+% of the time. No. Stop doing that. But if you're going to make it closer to 50-50, I'm not theoretically opposed to that, then you have to be more explosive. And I think that's what Savion Williams is there to do. I think he's going to get some running game touches, explosiveness. That's what Marshawn Lloyd is there to do. We talked about this earlier in this offseason. You need that explosiveness because you're just not going to be down to down, play to play. You're not going to be efficient enough. You're just not. Almost no one is. The Eagles were all, I just gave you the number, 17 20-yard runs from Saquon Barkley, 7 40-yard runs from Saquon Barkley, and they still were not as efficient running the ball in terms of generating value as the 2023 49ers. Because with Christian McCaffrey, that team, and Deebo Samuel, they were outrageous. And they still threw the ball more than they ran it. Even that team did that. You want to maximize your rushing efficiency, do it a little bit less. Especially when your passing game on early downs is as good as the Packers is, even if you're not using play action. That's the thing. If you've listened to this show over the course of the offseason, I was just on these airwaves. I was just in your earbuds. I was just on your car stereo talking about how this team did not use play action often enough, and that there were reasons for that. Some of the offensive line issues, some of the receiver issues. I think Jordan Love's health played more of a role. Remember, after the Rams game, I asked Jordan Love about that. I asked Matt LaFleur about that, and they made it seem like, they frankly made it seem like I was crazy for even asking it. And then, of course, Jordan Love comes out and is like, well, actually, I was basically hurt all year. The knee never, it got better, but it never got best. It never got back. That seems suboptimal if you want to use play action, because play action is just more steps. Like a 5-step drop, even a 7-step drop. Play action is more steps because you have to pivot, you've got to turn, you've got to take these little baby steps to pretend like you're handing the ball off, and then you're flipping your hips, and now it might be 3, 4, 5 to get to the top of your drop. It's a deeper drop. You got to drive the ball. It's more wear and tear on your body. And if you're Jordan Love, you might not want to turn your back to the defense if your offensive line is not playing great and your legs are not 100%, precisely because if you've got pressure in your face, you are less reactive to it. You cannot move off your spot and make a throw as efficiently as you could if you could see everything right away. Like if you're on the gun and you can take your 3, 5, 7-step drop, whatever it is, you can see the pressure. You can anticipate the pressure. You can see that unblocked defender. And you can make an anticipatory move to get out of the way or throw the ball away. You turn your back to the defense. You're at the mercy of your blocking. And the picture's changing. It's not ideal. It's not. Now, there are ways around this. There are ways for the Packers to go, look, we want to have balance, but we also want to make sure that we are maximizing efficiency. And if under center play action, if you proved last year, and they did, you can have a really efficient offense on early downs without a bunch of under center, turn your back to the defense play action, then you can build a whole offense around a team that doesn't have to use that. This is not Joe Burrow, where you're going, I don't know what they're going to do. All he wants to do is operate from the gun. We have no answers. What are we supposed to do? You can have some of these token fakes, but those aren't going to work that great. And unless you have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, you're kind of screwed. Packers don't have Jamar Chase. They don't have T. Higgins, much less both of them. So can they manufacture an offense? Can they make this work? Can they keep the balance that Matt LaFleur clearly wants to manufacture? Can they make sure that they're maximizing Josh Jacobs and Marshawn Lloyd and maximize Jordan Love's ability? Maximize the investments that they have in these receivers. Perhaps most importantly, does this offseason lead us to believe that actually what they want to do is something entirely different, or at least materially different anyway? We'll talk about that next on Locked On Packers. Thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Scouting. As training camps get closer and moves are being made, host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. This offense and the offseason, I have wondered often what it is trying to tell us about who the Packers want to be. And I've speculated and wondered aloud on this show and in writing and, The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. If this offseason signals a change in the way the team wants to play. Because I remember, I don't remember exactly when it was, and maybe it was last season. I think it was about the middle of last season. I went back and watched some of the Jordan Love from 2023, the end, the Jordan Love Cooks 2023. And I had forgotten how much of that was from empty. And I know it's not the case, but my recollection of the 2024 team is they were an empty like exactly 0 times. And that, of course that's not true, but it felt that way. Now, in fairness to my feelings, I didn't remember them being an empty as much as they were in 2023 either. But the efficiency that they generate out of some of the most iconic plays, the Dontavian Wicks touchdown against cover 0 in the Dallas Cowboys game, the playoff game, was from empty. That's Jordan Love from the gun, setting the protection and reading it out and going and making a great throw, a great pre-snap adjustment, perfect read, perfect ball, adjusting with a free runner in his face. Extremely high-level quarterback play. Is adding Matthew Golden, Anthony Belton, who, by the way, I have made this point before, is a better pass protector than run blocker at this point in his career, and Savion Williams, who is, I think, a dump the ball out of your hands and let him cook, in addition to being a deep threat. Does adding at those positions actually signal a willingness from the Packers, or more on point, a desire from the Packers to play a more modern version of this offense? To say, hey, Jordan Love, we're going to let you play offense more the way we let Aaron Rodgers play offense in 2020, 2021. The best version of the Matt LaFleur offense that we have seen was 2020. And that team did use under center play action. That team crushed defenses on play action. They killed man coverage with mesh concepts, man beaters. Now, they had Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams, a pretty unstoppable duo. But I wonder if the move for the Packers is to say, you know what offense we need to more closely resemble is not the 2023 49ers, because you just don't have the bodies for that. You don't have George Kittle. You don't have Brandon Ayuk. You don't have Deebo Samuel. You don't have Christian McCaffrey. Josh Jacobs, really good player. Tucker Kraft, really good player. Jaden Reed, really good player. We'll see about Matthew Golden. Jordan Love is better than the quarterback. But you really just don't have the bodies for that. Could you create a facsimile of that 2020 offense, which was, yes, a lot of Aaron Rodgers doing Aaron Rodgers things with Davante Adams doing Davante Adams things, but also certainly of the Aaron Rodgers era, the most schemed up this offense has looked? That's the version of this team that the Packers need to mimic. And I can understand them saying, look, you need to get that vertical threat. You need to get that guy who you can spit the ball out to and he can go win. Because that team did play from the gun a lot. They threw the ball on early downs a lot. But they still ran the ball a decent amount. Aaron Jones was really good in 2020. A.J. Dillon, Jamal Williams, they were really, really good in 2020. But guess what? That run game was explosive. They protected the hell out of Aaron Rodgers until the NFC Championship game at Lambeau Field. And they had a team that they knew on 3rd and 8 they could consistently get what they wanted because they had a receiver who could win those matchups. I think that's what they got Matthew Golden to do. I don't think they need him to be all-pro, 1,400-yard, 12-touchdown Devontae Adams. They need that from him. But on 3rd and 8, they'd like to have someone who you just call whatever and he's going to get open. That's the goal. Is that something that Matthew Golden can be in year one? I think that's an unreasonable expectation to put on a rookie. But I would understand the shape of that if that was what the Packers thought they were trying to do here. So I don't believe 2024 is a fair and accurate reflection of how Matt LaFleur wants to play with this group of players. Jordan Love in particular. He believes Love is capable of much, much more than that. And we saw it in the second half of that 2023 season. Now, if the Packers are winning these games, if they're up 10 in the third quarter or the fourth quarter, they're going to run the ball a bunch. And that's fine. And I'm also on some level fine with the idea, at least, of Matt LaFleur saying, we are just going to punish teams in the first quarter running the ball. And that's going to set up everything for us. Kyle Shanahan was lauded on Film Guy Twitter for the quote from George Kittle. It wasn't even from Kyle Shanahan. From George Kittle saying, look, we call run plays just to kill him, just to set up the thing off the run play. Well, if you're running plays that work, I mentioned the Packers second in game neutral running the ball, EPA per play. And it's a positive, like it's a net positive for them to run the ball in those neutral situations. That's good. I'm fine with that. It's working. But you also have to then use it. You have to create the play action that gives you those opportunities off of that. And they didn't do that last year. You're just not playing complementary football when that's the approach. You want to pound the rock in the first quarter, fine. But then second and third quarters, it's got to be play action, shot plays just over and over. Not every play, of course, you can't do that. But you've got to take those shots when you can get them. You've got to be more aggressive using that run action, especially if it's effective in the run game, if you're actually able to run the ball. Though, of course, we have the data that says you don't actually need to be good running the ball to create effective play action. But Matt LaFleur kind of seems to not care that that's the case. He's kind of an old school coach in that way, despite his youth. So if the run game is going to work, and I do think the run game is going to be very good this year, then a willingness to do more play action early in the games and a willingness to let Jordan Love cook a little bit more early in these games would benefit everybody. It got a little too predictive when we talked about this last year. Everydayers remember some of the conversations we were having at the end of the year. It felt very run, passy, especially in the first and second quarters. Run, pass, run, pass. Or it was like, okay, incomplete on first down, basic, 2nd and 10, inside zone run. It's like, okay, now it's 3rd and 8 and you're in trouble. Or it's 3rd and 12 and you're in trouble. That's not useful. So they have to find that balance. But I think we're going to see a different style of play this year. And I continue to believe the 2020 Packers is the model that this Packers team can follow. They don't have the high-end talent. I think they have a deeper receiver room. I think they have a quarterback capable of playing at that kind of level. Whether he's the MVP, whether he's going to throw 40 touchdowns or whatever, is almost immaterial. He's proven he can throw 30, 35 touchdowns in a season if he's healthy. So if that's what you can get from your quarterback, then that 2020 offense is the model to follow. They have the run game to do that. They have the offensive line to do that. I think that's closer to what we're going to see this season, but we'll see. Back next week, much more here on Locked On Packers. Follow me on the social medias. Peter_Bukowski on Instagram, on X. You can find me on Blue Sky. Find the podcast on all the social media platforms, including TikTok. Subscribe on wherever you get podcasts. Subscribe, leave a rating, leave a review. Subscribe over to our YouTube page. You can watch us there so you can stay Locked On Packers.